Hello, everybody. Hope you guys enjoy that music we run there at the beginning. I say we, it's just me here. But basically, just want to give you something to listen to while we get things going. A lot of little things I do to prep while you're listening to music. I actually clean up my lab a little bit because I had like some food standing over there, and I don't want you guys seeing stuff that I've just eaten at lunch. So, yeah, so I'm just doing that. And, so today we are going to not show you my internet history. Today we are going to prepare to fail. Let's see here. First, I want to actually make sure I'm recording over here. There we go. So now, welcome. Everyone else now on the recording, now that I remember that I need to record this. So hello. This is Fail Along With Me. I'm Oddjob, and I am going to be your lead failure today. So never fear. I will make sure we all fail just fine. Basically, if you haven't watched the podcast before, this podcast or live stream here is about failure, and how we all succeed through ultimately learning through our failures. I don't care whether it's an IT project you've been handed. I don't care whether it's a personal thing you are doing, whether you take whether you have a wood shop you work in, whether you're a ham radio person, whether you are learning to paint your toenails, anything. Your failures are your best teachers, and that's really how you learned to do everything you've probably ever done correctly. You've learned not only by succeeding, by fluke, oh wow, you did the right thing, but you've also failed. You've done something incorrectly, and you learned from it because you learned, aha, that's a mistake. That's what it looks like when we fail. So now you know one thing that you don't do right to get it right. I love the statement, although the dude who actually said it was a total charlatan. Thomas Edison said he, failed thousands of times to create the light bulb, which he never created the light bulb. He didn't create any of it. He totally stole everything he ever invented. There's only one thing Thomas Edison ever invented, and if you can put into the chat, looks like I have 2 people watching right now. If you know the only thing that Thomas Edison actually invented, please give me a comment either in the video or write me at Fail Along With Me or Oddjob, or put it in the chat stream. But it's the only thing Thomas Edison ever invented. But he said, people's like, hey, you've failed now 1,000 times to create a light bulb, so don't you think you ought to give up? And he said, no, I've actually succeeded in finding 1,000 ways not to make a light bulb. That's valuable, actually, even though he never invented anything. So what we're going to be doing through these live streams is failing, and then we're going to succeed through that failure. Last time we streamed a couple times about malware reversal, and we wanted to basically prove to ourselves we could do it. And Malware Unicorn has been so lovely and kind as to actually create really good content and make it free for everyone. And so we did that, and I believe we succeeded fairly well, even though we failed a few times. There was lab failures, there was virtual machine setup failures, and it's nothing really to do with her. It's just, I've never set it up that way, or I've never done that part before. It's just, hey, oh, that's not where that setting goes, kind of thing. And then, I failed to kind of grasp what she was getting at with a couple of the things she was doing. I saw her results and went, why doesn't mine look like that? So I was trying to see what she was getting at. And then we finally succeeded in going through it again and doing it. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to do something that I've actually failed at a couple times already to try to create. We are going to create a Cuckoo box. For those of you who don't know what a Cuckoo box is a sandbox, and we might as well go to the website or that actually exists. Cuckoo Sandbox. So this is about automated malware analysis. You may remember that I talked about some automated malware analysis tools last time, including hybrid analysis. Hybrid analysis is an automated sandboxing tool. I wouldn't be surprised if they're using Cuckoo on the back end. They may be using other things like FireEye and other things, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're using Cuckoo on the back end. But basically, Cuckoo is a bunch of virtual machines that are automated, and this Cuckoo sandbox, this hypervisor, is going to take a look at what you're doing, and going to find out whatever file or thing you put into the sandbox system. It's going to find what it is. If it's malware, it's going to do stuff, and it's going to record that and say, aha, that's malware. And it's going to spit you back a nice report of what all it's done. What files it manipulated, what registry keys that it manipulated or worked around with. I'm going to move this microphone more this way. There we go. I think that looks better. Whoops. Don't want it wrapping against my... Sorry, I'm gonna turn this down a little bit. There we go. You didn't need to hear all those terrible sounds. Sorry about that. And basically, it's going to tell you what the program, software, or other things have been doing in your environment. So it can provide you great things. So we've been doing malware reversal, and I thought, hey, what a great thing to go ahead and kick off a Cuckoo sandbox. Problem is, I've never done it before. So what I'm going to do is, this is probably only going to be a stream that is going to last for another hour. What I'm going to be doing in this hour is showing you my preparation stages. So I may not do this for every single thing I ever stream. And the reason is because it can be boring. But I want to show you at least some of the work that's going to go into future streams behind the scenes to show you what I'm doing. Because going in blind is a sure way to fail and not really know what you're doing and succeed very well. You're not going to succeed very well at all. So it's important, no matter what you're doing, whether you're installing a new antivirus, malware, endpoint solution, whether it's a firewall, whether it's routing, switching, anything. It never hurts to read the instructions. It never hurts to look up guides on how to do it right. There's a lot of stuff out there that doesn't have a lot of documentation. So you have to look at multiple sources in order to piece things together. I'll tell you one thing that's very interesting. Trying to set up a Windows, anything newer than Windows 2003, certificate services server. Trying to set up one of those is not easy to find good documentation for it. And around the topic of two-factor authentication, very hard to actually find good documentation where you see setting up a Windows 2008, 2012, 2016 server with certificate services in the domain structure, and then actually going through and showing how to either self-enroll, enroll on behalf of, or doing self-service. It's very hard to find good documentation like that. And almost always it's about smart cards and never about hardware tokens. I remember for a customer, I kind of had to do a little bit of fail succeed with running my own lab to work with the customer to help them adopt a two-factor authentication with hardware tokens. Where they could just pop it in to their login screen and then type in their PIN code and it would authenticate them. It can be done. It's actually not that hard, but finding the documentation that actually put it in there was hard to find. And hard to find reliable data or information, not that was outdated, because a lot of the 2003 stuff still stands, but some of it is outdated. Some of the features you would expect don't exist anymore on 2008. They've moved on to something else, but they don't really talk about it. And there's no really good guides or blogs. So Cuckoo, from what I've seen before, actually is pretty well documented. It's fairly new, so it's going to have some good documentation. So Cuckoo here, and by the way, if you're in the chat, go ahead and say hi to me. Just let me know you're there. Tell me how my voice is. I've moved my microphone around. I've tried to actually do a bit of a noise canceling filter on my streaming software, so hopefully I'm coming through fairly clear and you're not hearing the echo. I've actually got a bad setup because I'm in a corner here, so there's a lot of echo. If you've noticed also, the room is not as dark and you don't have that light in the background on. I now have a nice little handy-dandy LED bulb here that's shining away from me, and then you're just seeing the ambient light, so that way you can see that I'm actually quite fat. And you can see all the imperfections in my face. So that's good reason why you're only that much of my screen that I have here. So yeah, so let's go ahead and actually show you some stuff. So I'm actually not going to really show you much. I'm just going to... This is cuckoosandbox.org. You can download the stuff, and Cuckoo comes in two different forms. Cuckoo comes in Basic and Enterprise. I guess they have offered by a third party. I'm supposing what this is like support. So they have systems integrations, support, there's development of new features, so they'll develop new features for you. That's the cool thing about a lot of support organizations, they'll develop new features for you. They'll do managed on-site hosting, so it seems like if you want the enterprise grade stuff, yeah, you can basically go there. So Hatching International BV is that. So if you're in an enterprise and you want to run your own Cuckoo sandboxes and do cool stuff that way, then yeah, they do all kinds of stuff here. I don't know if I can recommend them because it's just not something I've never actually worked with them. But yeah, hatching.io looks like is what they do. So, they have some job openings. So if you want to be a malware reverser, it looks like they're right now doing a 40-hour-a-week near Amsterdam in the Netherlands. Very cool. I don't know if they'll do remote, but, you know, it's out there. So never overlook opportunities like that. So documentation. So there's going to be all kinds of stuff. Cuckoo.sh/docs. A lot of people adopting the new, all kinds of new domains, .sh, .io, like everyone's going to these new things. People are doing .security for a lot of security stuff. Let's see here. So there's an introduction to sandboxing, using a sandbox. So some of the stuff I don't need to know because I already know what it is. So they talk about the architecture. Let's look at the architecture. Okay, cool. So we have the internet / a sinkhole. And then we have the Cuckoo host that's responsible for guest and analysis management. Guest in this case refers to the virtual machines. Start analysis dumps the traffic and generates reports. Cool. So then you have the analysis guests. Okay, so cool. So you have the internet or you have sinkholes. And basically, you use your sinkhole to forward on the malware to the Cuckoo host, and then it pops those into various clean environments. And then the behavior is sent back. So then there's a virtual network, and it actually does analysis on that network. So that's cool. Gonna say hi to the people in chat just to see. People are a little chat shy. Obtaining Cuckoo is pretty simple. You can be downloaded. We discourage from doing so, given that simply installing it through pip is the preferred way to get Cuckoo. So, important reason to read instructions is that they will show you that you should probably do it through pip. So there is a section about installing Cuckoo, so I'm going to just right-click, open a new tab. So that's one thing I like doing is, thank you, not my real name. Hello to you. One thing I like about documentation like this is that I can just right-click, open a new tab, and just, come over to that later. I don't have to interrupt what I'm doing when researching. Cuckoo could be downloaded from the official website. They have Git repository. While being more updated, including new features and bug fixes, the version available in the Git repository should be considered an under development stage. Therefore, its stability is not guaranteed. So, be careful with the GitHub. Cool. So this is installing Cuckoo. So what I'm supposing here... preparing the host. To run Cuckoo, we need to we suggest a GNU Linux operating system. We'll be using the latest Ubuntu LTS at 16.04, so probably a good idea to use 16.04 for the purposes of this, so we will probably do that. Requirements: installing Python libraries. If you're running this on Mac OS X, if you're running on Windows 7, virtualization software. I think you get two ideas here. Actually, Cuckoo Sandbox supports most virtualization software solutions. Cool. For the sake of this guide, we will assume that you have VirtualBox installed, which is the default. But this does not affect the execution and general configuration of the sandbox. You are completely responsible of the choice, configuration, and execution of your virtualization software. Please read our extensive documentation FAQ before reaching out to us with questions. Basically, RTFM, please don't make us answer questions we've already answered. That's important when you go out for support. Do some Googling, get the FAQ, read the ATRG or something first, and then get up to your support folks. Assuming you decide to go with VirtualBox, you can get the proper package. So, we already have a decision to make. We can either decide we're going to take their recommendation and run VirtualBox, or we can say, fuck that. I said fuck, sorry. We're going to run KVM. So I think to make sure that we're not going to have problems with KVM, I think our first goal is going to be getting it set up for VirtualBox. We might do a later stretch goal of setting it up on KVM. So then there's installing TCP dump. By the way, if you have installed KVM, you're welcome to put in any little tips in the chat. Or if you have installed Cuckoo Sandbox before, feel free to jump in the chat and say something. That's the cool thing. Always look for people to help you. You're not going to have to do this on your own. You can always ask for help. Even when you're on the job, don't be afraid to ask questions to people, especially people who are senior to you or who are peers, because they may have seen other things. You're all security experts or technology experts, but you've all seen different technology. Note that the AppArmor profile disabling is only required when using the default CWD directory. Okay. Installing Volatility. Volatility is an optional tool to do forensic analysis on memory dumps. In combination with Cuckoo, it can automatically provide additional visibility into deep modifications in the operating system, as well as the presence of rootkit technology that escape monitoring domain of Cuckoo's analyzer. I recommend doing that. That's one thing I'm going to include is volatility. So we're going to make sure we do this. Installing M2 crypto. Currently, the M2 crypto library is only supported when Swig has been installed. So they're saying install Swig first. Let's see here. Cool. So there's all these things of installing all these things. So then finally installing Cuckoo. So there's going to be a user we're going to have to add. That's never been a problem for me. Doing a user mod has never been a problem for me. Raising file limits, that wasn't a problem to me. So basically, you can get an IO error of too many open files. You you can bump the file count limits before Cuckoo, as otherwise some samples will fail to properly process the report. Very cool. Install Cuckoo. So this is basically going to be pip. So if you've never installed pip, install pip. And set up tools. And yeah. And install Cuckoo right there. Global installation works fine. We highly recommend installing Cuckoo in a virtual env, which looks roughly as follows. Virtual env. Cool. Some reasons. So here's another thing. We have to decide whether we're going to follow this recommendation or do something completely different. Cuckoo's dependencies may not be entirely up to date, but instead pin to a work-to-known properly version. The dependencies of other software installed on your system may conflict with those required by Cuckoo due to incompatible version requirements. And yes, this is also possible when Cuckoo supports the latest version, simply because the other software may have pinned to an older version. Using a virtual env also allows non-root users to install additional packages or upgrade Cuckoo at a later point. And simply put, virtual env is considered a best practice. Cool. Very cool. Installing Cuckoo from file. So there's download Cuckoo. And then you can build it from source. Some people are that awesome that they want to develop, and they want to build stuff from source. I'm not going to do that. The Cuckoo working directory, and then configuration. There's some files here. Now, what I have heard tell of before is there is a automatic setup script for this. So let's actually look that up first. Google.com apparently, which just Googled Google.com. Great. Cuckoo automatic installer. Bugaroo. Daniel Gallagher. Looks like an auto install from Kiploit. Painless Cuckoo sandbox installation. Yeah, cool. So let's look at those real quick. So here's all the things. Supported systems. Most of the script is not distro dependent. Okay. Given that we use the proprietary VirtualBox version, most of the time OSE edition doesn't fulfill our needs. This script requires that they've got a Debian repo in VirtualBox downloads for your distro. Forcing the distro and config files should make it work on unsupported ones. So important to remember. Cool. If you trust us, your network setup and a lot more variables enough, and you're as lazy as it gets, you can execute as a normal user if you've got sudo configured. Yay. Okay. Add a password as root for the user Cuckoo. Create the virtual machines. So basically, make some virtual machines, make those OVAs, and then pop them in. Add to the virtual machines with host-only options. Cool. And then there's going to be a web manager for this at the end of the day. So you basically get a Django 6969 giggity, and basically run server, and it is doing 12 analysis per hour, 305 per day. That person has a fairly active environment, if it's a home environment. It installs by default Cuckoo Sandbox and all the optional stuff, Yara, SSDeep. I'm supposing volatility as well. Install Cuckoo as a daemon. Okay, so let's look at Daniel Gallagher's. I think I've used this one before, and it didn't work as well. And then here's an auto install. I think this looks like the first one. Yes. This is basically the first one. So that's this buggeroo. And now painless Cuckoo is... Okay. Before we do a walkthrough of the script, let's pause for a moment to consider what it takes to set up a malware analysis environment. Ooh, wow. This actually sounds like something I should have seen before. I have never seen this before. So let's read through this. And I'm going to... Not for my eyes, but for your eyes at home. Type of analysis performed by Cuckoo can be classified as dynamic analysis. The malware sample is executed in a controlled environment, and the behavior is observed. As most malware targets the Windows operating system and or the applications running on it, you will need to create a Windows VM for Cuckoo. You will need to step out of your role as a blue team member to prepare this VM. This VM has to be as vulnerable as possible to increase the chances of malware executing inside the VM. You will have to disable most of the protections and hardening you would implement on the machine. See, I've never gotten this far, so I've never actually thought about what would go into creating the VM. Cool. You'll have to disable most of the protections and hardening you would implement on machines in your corporate network. For example, you will not install an antivirus in this VM. Disable UAC. Don't install patches. To properly analyze malicious Office documents, you will use an older, unpatched version of Microsoft Office. You will disable macro security. You want the macros to run as soon as the document is open. You wouldn't necessarily do all this. Older, unpatched version of Microsoft Office, you might use the new stuff. There is stuff that will execute in Windows 2000, Windows 7 that will not execute in Windows XP, and vice versa, because they're executing very specific things with that operating system. And same thing with Microsoft Office. Can you upload your own custom image? Absolutely you can. So that's the cool thing with the sandbox is it doesn't create the VMs for you. You must create the VM. So let's say you're in a corporate environment. This is a common sandboxing thing that I ask a lot of sandboxing vendors, and I think only a couple do this. I know McAfee's sandbox environments, they call it their ATD, I think, Advanced Threat Detection. It's a sandbox. They have some basic images, but they also allow you to upload your own gold image. Wouldn't be surprised if they're basically just running a Cuckoo sandbox in the background. But I digress. You can load your own gold image. What does the gold image actually tell you, or your custom image tell you? If you have a gold image, that is the standard image that you load on every single computer inside a site or an organization. It's the very basic thing. Or a gold image for Ubuntu servers, or a gold image for Windows servers. This is the basic hardening. This is the basic system setup. So really what you want to see is, are you hardened against certain threats? So what I would say do in that case is you would want to have 3 executions. You would want to have an older operating system, a newer operating system, and then you'd want your gold image. So you may find that a really out-of-date, base install of Windows 7 with a lot of stuff disabled that should be enabled, malware may execute and actually be able to exploit something. But on your gold hardened image, you may find that, hey, it's not actually vulnerable at all on that system. And that's something that's really cool because that gives you a bit of confidence when an executive comes in and says, hey, that new thing in Windows that's vulnerable, are we vulnerable to that? You can at least tell them something you actually know, that you have executed in a test environment on our gold image, and it currently does not, in the gold image, execute, or it doesn't do whatever it's going to do. On older unpatched versions it does, and we don't have those in our company. That's probably a lie, though, because you probably do. But let's just say you do. You know, and it doesn't. That's a really cool thing to be able to tell that executive. Or you're able to say, I have 15 machines in the company that are currently vulnerable because they have this thing disabled. or something. So telling them, hey, our base golden image that we've had for 2 years, yeah, that thing works, and it didn't actually it didn't actually execute on that. That's something cool to be able to tell someone. It also allows you to kind of test your gold image. You have some basic operating system security settings put on that the operating system doesn't come configured by default. Turning those on, or some of the other things you may have on it, well, look at that. It ends up being able to solve the problem. So you can kind of rate that against chance, I guess, or rate that against other things. But yeah, you can upload your own custom image. And then of course there's the ethics, right? You can download Windows 7 and Windows almost any Windows version now from Microsoft. That's currently still supported, and you can load that in. And you'll come up with, hey, this isn't licensed. So there are some things we need to consider with that, right? So what is the purpose of me and my lab of doing this? It is not for commercial gain. It is not for work. This isn't working to secure anybody's data. It's meant for purely research purposes. And so are we going to use, Windows 7 totally 100% purchased from Microsoft? Maybe. Maybe not. If you're at an enterprise or someplace where you're using this commercially or to protect real production environments, buy it. There's no reason not to. You really have no excuse for not buying software that you're using in a live environment, in a production environment. So absolutely, you need to go and you need to get that taken care of. So my 2 cents. Yeah, just be ethical. Take a look at some of that. There's some gray areas involved with all of this, but yeah. Not everyone has money to buy all the things in the world. Let's see. You will now need to set up your roles of blue tea. Okay, so cool. To properly analyze malicious Office documents. Okay, get that. See, I'm reading back over stuff I've not read for a few seconds. Try, and then take your hardening policies and guidelines and then do the opposite. It'll be fun, they said. Using Cuckoo auto install. Installing Cuckoo with Cuckoo auto install is easy. Prepare your VM and export it to the OVA format. Update the script with your VM settings and execute it as root. We will discuss how to create Cuckoo analysis VMs in a follow-up blog post. Cool. It's best that your Ubuntu OS is up to date before you launch the script, otherwise you might encounter errors when Cuckoo auto install will install the necessary dependencies, like this error. So this error has to do with the GPG error. The following signatures can't be verified because the public key is not available. So they changed public keys, basically. Updating the script with your VM settings is easy. So basically, as you're installing, you can say Cuckoo guest image equals temp w701 OVA. Guest name VM. Cuckoo guest, and then put an IP address in there. And then put in the internet interface name as ETH0. Execute the script as root. It will take 15 minutes. Let's see here. This is the Inviso mod, or Inviso. This is from Bugaroo. Just trying to see if there was a... trying to see if there was any kind of... Uh-oh. I'm gonna do a thing. I shouldn't do this. Oh, it's literally... Oh, nope. It's popping in here. Uh-oh, this is not gonna be fun. But yeah, this is from Druger, it looks like. Sean the Geek. This is back from August 2015. So all the stuff. So this is really cool stuff. Configuring Nginx. See what I'm saying? Like, all of this stuff is like, looks like very important stuff. And I kind of want to make sure I have all of it. Okay. It's old, though. It's like 3 years old. Some of it might be good. This article is April 2018. So this is probably going to be one of my best guides to look at. Yeah, I can't see who actually did this one. Bugaroo. Oh, it's Bugaroo. Yeah, right there. Bugaroo Offensive Security. So this guy is running through the Bugaroo stuff. So this works. So we're going to try this. Then execute the script as root. Take about 15 minutes to execute. If you're interested in seeing the progress step by step, use the verbose option. We will probably use the verbose option just to have fun. When the script finishes execution, make sure I don't have, yeah, that's off. Cool. When the script finishes, we'll see green check marks. Okay, cool. And then testing the Cuckoo installation. So they're using VirtualBox. Part of me just doesn't like that. Part of me wants to use KVM because why not, right? Why not do something more cool? I guess VirtualBox is cool, but I mean, I use it for my own hand labs that I do here. So there's Cuckoo. Okay. Submit a sample and let it run. So you can upload a sample. And tor.exe, it's reported. After a minute, you'll be able to view the report. Make sure you do this, because if you get the following message, your guest VM is not properly configured. See, look at this. I like this, because it says, here's what happens when you fail. Best way to fix this issues with your guest VM is to log in with the Cuckoo user. Credentials can be found and modified. Start VirtualBox and launch your VM from the clean snapshot. So, very important to notice, right here, this guy, they are using, they're just logging straight on into to this Ubuntu box. They're just logging straight on into it. So I don't. That's kind of interesting. I usually only install Ubuntu as a headless server, so it doesn't have a GUI. So that's cool. In a few moments, I'll show you what my. I'll have about 30 minutes left. I'm going to show you what my my lab environment looks like, because I haven't shown you what my virtual lab looks like. Once you've troubleshooted your VM, for example, fixed network issues, you can take a snapshot and name this snapshot clean. Remove the previous clean snapshot, then try to submit again. Cool. All right, so then you get some cool stuff. You get type, so you get a PE32 executable, and if you remember from our last stream, that's a 32 bits portable executable. So it's and GUI, so it has a GUI to it. Strip to external PDB for Microsoft Windows. We get the SHA. We get the SHA-1, SHA-256, and the SHA-512. Although installing Cuckoo can be difficult. So it's not just me. The Cuckoo auto install script will automate the installation and make it easy. Provided you configure your guest VM properly, we plan to address the configuration of your guest VM in an upcoming blog post. But for now, you can look at Cuckoo's recommendations. It is possible to install Cuckoo on Ubuntu running in a virtual environment. We have done this with AWS and VMware. There can be some limitations, though. So this is interesting because we're going to be running in ESXi. Depending on your environment, for example, it could be possible that you cannot configure more than one CPU for your Cuckoo guest VM, as there are malware samples that try to evade detection by checking the number of CPUs. Okay, this could be an issue, and you would be better off using a physical Cuckoo install. Okay, so basically, if there's, let's see, it could be possible that you cannot configure more than one CPU for your Cuckoo guest. Huh, interesting. Is that just a research? Or not a research, is that just a resource limitation? Because if I put 4 cores on my... If I put Cuckoo, my Cuckoo host, which is an ESXi guess, if I give it 4 cores, it has a couple cores to work with, at least, for the VMs. Interesting. Didier Stevens, hope I'm not mispronouncing your name. He's a malware expert for Inviso. He's also an Internet Storm Center handler and Microsoft MVP. He can be found on Twitter and LinkedIn. I think we're going to end up using his stuff. And then here's some stuff. Good to read through the comments. So probably can read through the comments too as we're going through this. So I'm probably going to use this guide and the Bugaroo. So I'm going to get rid of that, and I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to use this Bugaroo thing. And we're going to pop this. Oh, sorry. I'm bringing this over for some reason. Cool. There we go. That's what I want to see. And so yeah. So are there any questions that anyone has in the comments? I have a couple people in the comments or the chat. Any comments, things you think I'm missing? Because we're not going to do this today. We're going to do this either tomorrow or some other time this week. But we will do this week. I do want to show you my environment. I need to see, I'm connected to my other network. I really need to be connected to the other network in order to get to my environment. I don't know if YouTube will like me doing that. So yeah, basically, I'll at least just describe my environment to you. I have, let me see. I'm gonna take you guys on a small tour here. I have, whoop, wrapped up in all these cables here. I have in my environment, yeah. That should be able to see some things here. Let me see. So right under here. Yeah, look at that. So right under here, I have a this AP is not really situated for this. It's for outdoor use technically. A Forta switch. I have a Forta gate. I have my modem for Comcast. It's a surfboard. And then I have the Forta AP. So this has worked really well. Forta gates, Forta AP, Forta switches worked really well for me. I mean, almost any other thing will do as well, but those have been very kind to me. Haven't really done me wrong yet. So then this guy, which you may not be able to get a good look at because of the way the geometry of this thing is, basically, that little monstrosity there, oh, there's my Commodore 64 down there. This little monstrosity over here has 8 cores in it, and it has 32 gigs of RAM. So, has I think maybe 3 terabytes of storage. So, 6 terabytes, I think, and then I think it's rated. So that way I have some reliability. So basically, I run it on that. The hypervisor is running on an SSD, so that way, you know, that stuff is fast. I also think I run the operating systems on the SSD as well, so everything is fast. Bring you back up to my level now. I'm up here. So yeah, basically that's what I run that on. And so I have 8 network interface cards on the back of the ASXi host. Each one of those goes to a different subnet that is governed by VLANs and different segments inside the firewall. So that way I can define exactly what kind of traffic I want entering in or coming out of certain places. So I have a DMZ net specifically for the malware research side of the things. So that way that stuff is even separated from my other DMZ services. So there's basically a level of abstraction in both the switching, the firewall, and also in the Cuckoo. The Cuckoo box is going to abstract again more networking away because it's also virtual. So there's going to be addresses inside there that don't exist on the rest of my network. And it's not going to be routable. It's not going to be able to be had anywhere. So that's where that's going to be. But barring any questions or any comments or anything further, I think I'll probably be good to jump off here and basically get ready for that. I'm gonna pop this over here so that way you don't see my screen there. There we go. That's a lot better. Don't want you guys end up getting the whole effect of infinity. So yeah. I'll use these. I'm gonna bookmark these so that we can use for the next session, and we will then. I think what I'll do to not bore you guys with an Ubuntu installation, I will probably just install Ubuntu and take care of those prerequisites that we've already gone over, and just make sure that's all put together. And then we'll be ready to run the script. We'll probably take about 3 hours for a stream to do that. Just to make sure we got everything right. We're probably going to be customizing our VMs and everything. So Linux, I don't have a Mac image, so I'll probably try to source one of those. But we'll focus on Windows and Linux first because I want to detonate some Linux malware and see what that looks like in Cuckoo. Hopefully that will work. But yeah, so I guess I'll leave myself to it, and I'll leave you guys to put some comments in the comment fields. I will read those. We're on YouTube now. We're no longer on Twitch. The vast majority of you guys decided you didn't want to watch me on Twitch. So although the last time I did do something on Twitch, I had 18 viewers. I only had 2 viewers today for this YouTube live stream, but it's not a very exciting one. So we'll promote this a little bit, and hopefully tomorrow or the next day, I will do a live stream. And this video will be uploaded very shortly after this stream, so you can catch it later there to see my preparation steps and just this little discussion on Cuckoo. I've never done this before. Again, I've never successfully done this before. So even though I'm talking about things that I know it in concept. I don't know it through actually doing it. And those two things are very, very different things. There's a difference between knowing the path and walking the path, as Morpheus says. So anyway, fail along with me next time, folks. And thank you very much for failing along today.